位领导人和国际组织负责人入场。Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up and give a warm round of applause to His Excellency Li Qiang, Premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China, leaders of participating countries, and heads of international organizations. Guests, please be seated. 请各位就座。现在请博鳌亚洲论坛秘书长李保东先生主持开幕式。Now let's welcome Mr. Li Baodong, Secretary General of the Boao Forum for Asia, to moderate the opening plenary.
尊敬的中华人民共和国国务院总理
Your Excellency Li Qiang, Premier of the People's Republic of China, distinguished leaders and heads of international organizations, distinguished Chairman Ban Ki-moon of the Boao Forum for Asia, Vice Chairman Zhou Xiaochuan, distinguished members of the Board of Directors and advisors, distinguished Mr. Zeng Peiyan, Vice Chairman of the Board of the Council of Advisors, dear ministers, diplomatic envoys, and representatives of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
首先，我荣幸地宣布，博鳌亚
At
洲
the
论
outset,
坛
I'm honored to announce
2023年
that
年
the
会
Boao Forum for Asia
正式
Annual
开幕。
Conference 2023 now opens.
在今天开幕式上致辞的各国领导人和各
Leaders
国
and head of international organization
节，还有国际组织的负责人，
speaking
有
at the opening
中华人民共
ceremony
和国
today are
国务院总理李强阁
His
下，
Excellency Li Qiang, Premier
新
of
加
the
坡
People's
共和
Republic
国
of China,
总理李显龙阁下，
His Excellency Li
西班牙
Qianlong, Prime Minister
王
of
国首相
Singapore,
桑切斯阁下，
His Excellency Pedro
马来
Sanchez,
西亚总
Prime
理
Minister of
安
Spain,
瓦尔阁下，
His Excellency Anwar
国
Ibrahim,
际
Prime Minister of
货币基
Malaysia,
金组织总裁戈尔基耶
Madame
娃
Kristalina Georgieva, Managing
企业
Director
家的代表
of the IMF, and
我谨代表
representatives
博鳌亚
of
洲
the
论
business
坛
community.
对各位领导
On
人
behalf of the Forum,
和国际组织负责人
I express
表示热烈
sincere
的欢迎
gratitude
和衷心
to
的
all
感
the
谢。
leaders and heads of international organizations.
全球新冠肺炎疫情爆发以来，
Since the onset of
博鳌亚洲论
COVID-19,
坛同世界各国一道，
this forum
经受
has
住
been working
严重的
with all sides
严峻的
around the world
多重的挑
in
战，
responding to
并积极地
multifaceted
参与国
challenges
际抗疫合
and
作，
fighting the pandemic
推动
in
区域
solidarity with
和
the
世界经
international
济复
community.
苏做出了不
We
懈
are
努
working
力。
tirelessly to promote regional
本届
and
论
global
坛年
economic
会
recovery.
完全恢复线
This
下
year's
举
annual
行模式，
conference, held
各国
offline,
政府、工商界
is an opportunity
学术
for
界领
leaders
袖
of the governments,
重聚一
the
堂，
business community,
探讨
and
亚洲
the
和全
academia
球发
to
展大
meet
计
and discuss future
我谨
development
向
of
东道
Asia
国
and the world.
和有关国家政府
I hereby
以及
express
各界人
my
士
sincere respect
向论
for
坛
the
提
strong
供的大
support
力支
offered
持，
by the host
表
country,
示衷心的感
relevant
谢。
governments, and people from various sectors.
当前全球，我们正面临着方方面面的
As we
挑战
speak,，
这种挑战层出不穷。
multiple global
世界
challenges
正
are
在经
emerging.
历深刻而宏
The
阔
world
的
is witnessing
历史之变。
profound and broad changes
我
in the
们热
course
情
of
地期
history.
待本届论坛年会在和平发展、合作共赢的旗帜
With a
引
view
领
to
下，
peaceful development
在各方
and
共
mutually
同参与
beneficial
下，
cooperation with
继续
participating
迸发出
sides,
引领时代的
we
思
look
想，
forward
化解
to
挑
exchanging
战的
pioneering
良
ideas,
方，
contributing
凝聚
solutions to
共识
challenges,
的力量。
and building consensus
下面
throughout
我邀
this
请
annual
博鳌亚
conference.
洲论坛理
May I
事
now
长潘
invite
基文阁
Chairman
下
Ban
致
Ki-moon
欢迎词。
of the BFA to give welcoming remarks.
Your Excellency Li Qiang, Premier of the State Council of People's Republic of China, Dear Excellencies, Prime Ministers from Cote d'Ivoire, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Singapore, and Spain, and Managing Director of IMF, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen, and also among the guests, I recognized the presence of participation of Honorable Mary Robinson, Chair of the Elders, former President of Ireland, and Honorable Danilo Turk, Chair of the Madrid Club, former President of Slovenia. And it's a great honor for me to welcome all of you to Annual Conference 2023 of the Boao Forum for Asia. Thank you for your participation. For many of us, this is the first time we meet face-to-face in 4 years' time. It's a happy reunion after such a long interval. It is a great start for our new journey after so many crises, shocks, and surprises. It's time to look ahead and plan for our shared future. It's time for renewed action on challenges of long-term and global nature. We do not have much time left. Clocks are ticking on multiple fronts. Loudest of all is the climate clock. We have agreed to act together. We have made good promises, good deals. We also are seeing encouraging progress, but the climate clock seems to be ticking much, much faster and well ahead of our responses. We just cannot keep pace. As the world's attention is preoccupied with the virus, conflict, inflation, and recession, global temperatures continue to rise unabatedly. We have gone through the 7 hottest years on record. More will surely come if climate action stays behind the pace of climate change instead of overtaking it. And the poverty clock. For a time, the pandemic alone threatened to push some 100 million people back into extreme poverty. The real number could be worse. Food and energy crisis following the conflict in Ukraine dealt with another heavy blow to those struggling to make ends meet. As inflation persists, the poor and the vulnerable faces a worsening cost of living crisis. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has forecast a still tougher year for the economy. That's bad news, again, for the stalled global fight against extreme poverty and climate and inequality. When the economy goes bad, the poor and the vulnerable bears the brunt. If it goes well, the rich and privileged few countries wins the most. That's the harsh reality we have to face in addressing inequality and ever-widening gap of income and wealth. The past 3 years have only seen it grow worse. This is not only unfair and unjust, but economically unviable and unsustainable. Without a strong and stable middle class supported by political will, economic growth and prosperity will not last long. The list goes on and on. The UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals has listed 17 goals of sustainable development to be accomplished by 2030. We have only a little more than 7 years to go. Where are we now? Where are we now? Barely half done, less than half done. Let me repeat, we do not have much time left. The past 3 years is a lost window of opportunity in many ways because of pandemic. We must make up for the loss with a greater urgency, stronger will, and bolder actions. Let's not waste our invaluable time and limited time in geopolitical rivalry, ideological confrontations, and geo-economic fragmentations. Rather, let's get reunited to take on our common and long-term challenges. Clearly, solidarity and cooperation remains the best way through the uncharted waters of global uncertainty. Yes, we have piles upon piles of immediate and short-term headaches. Our hands are full and heavy. There is no underestimation their urgency and complexity, but we must caution against being blinded by short-sightedness. We should have global vision, longer vision, united by global partnership. The cost of losing sight of the bigger picture is just too high. Standing at this podium, ladies and gentlemen, I see in front of me an audience of more than 2,000 political, business, intellectual, and opinion leaders of the world that can shape, who can really shape the course and future of this dynamic region and the world at large. I take this opportunity to appeal to the leaders of the world and citizens of the world to think ahead, think long-term, think global, and think big. I count on your global and wisdom to secure our shared future of sustainable and inclusive peace and prosperity. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us work together as global citizenship to make this world sustainable and better for all. That's your political and, for us, moral responsibility for our succeeding generations and the only planet Earth, which we have to care. Thank you very much. 谢谢。
感谢潘基文理事长阁下
I
的
thank
致辞。
Chairman Ban Ki-moon for
我
his
荣幸地
welcoming
邀请
remarks. Now, with great honor, I invite His Excellency Li Qiang, Premier of the People's Republic of China, to give a keynote speech.
Your Excellencies, Heads of Government, Your Excellencies, Heads of International Organizations, Your Excellencies, Chairman Ban Ki-moon and members of the Board of Directors of the Boao Forum for Asia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to join you in the beautiful Hainan Island for the Boao Forum for Asia Annual Conference 2023. Let me begin by extending, on behalf of the Chinese government, warm congratulations on the opening of the annual conference, a hearty welcome to all participating guests, and sincere appreciation to you all for your long-standing care and support for China's development. The theme of this year's annual conference, An Uncertain World, Solidarity and Cooperation for Development Amid Challenges, is highly relevant to our times and responsive to our shared concerns. In a world of turmoil and transformation, humanity is faced with unprecedented challenges. Instability, uncertainty, and unexpected developments have become the norm. Amid the momentous shifts where uncertainty abounds, people yearn for more and stronger forces of certainty to drive the world to a brighter future. 10 years ago, President Xi Jinping put forward the vision of building a community with shared future for mankind. Later, he expanded China's propositions on the vision at this forum and on many other international occasions. And he went on to propose the Global Development Initiative GDI, the Global Security Initiative GSI, and the Global Civilization Initiative GCI. These initiatives are China's proposals for global development and governance. Over the past decade, China has taken concrete actions to advance the building of a community with a shared future for mankind and achieved a series of major outcomes. The high-quality Belt and Road cooperation in particular has helped developing countries achieve faster development and open up new space for the growth of the world economy. Meanwhile, China has made productive efforts as a major responsible country to champion political settlement of crises, resolve international hotspot issues, facilitate peace talks, and de-escalate tensions. These are the real steps that China has taken to build a community with a shared future for mankind. What has happened shows that the vision of a community with a shared future for mankind has become a banner that guides the trend of the times and human progress and a source of certainty for lasting peace and shared prosperity in the world. Asia and the entire world are at a crossroads of history. We must hold high the banner of the vision of a community with a shared future for mankind and join hands to foster an Asian community with a shared future. We need to work together to build an anchor for world peace, a source of impetus for global growth, and a new pace setter for international cooperation, to add certainty to world peace and development and shape a better future for humanity. First, working together to maintain a peaceful and stable environment for development to bring greater certainty to the fluid global environment. Peace is the prerequisite for development. Without a generally peaceful and stable environment, Asia's remarkable progress in the past several decades would not have been possible. To achieve greater success, chaos and conflicts must not happen in Asia. Otherwise, the future of Asia would be lost. The 5 principles of peaceful coexistence and the Bandung spirit, which were developed nearly 70 years ago, encapsulate the wisdom of the Asian people. The Asian way of mutual respect, consensus building, and accommodating the comfort levels of all parties provides the fundamental guide to countries to pursue development through cooperation. The more turbulent the world is, the more important it is for us to cherish these invaluable assets and firmly safeguard the hard-won peaceful environment. We need to stay committed to good liberalness and amity, support ASEAN centrality in East Asian cooperation, and work with a strong sense of togetherness in face of difficulty to keep Asia peaceful and stable. We need to implement the GSI, uphold the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security, oppose wanton use of unilateral sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction, reject taking sides, block confrontation and new Cold War, and address differences and disputes through peaceful means to jointly uphold world peace and tranquility. Second, working together to build a more vibrant center of growth to bring greater certainty to world economic recovery. Asia, with nearly 60% of the world's population, almost 40% of the global economy, and over 30% of international trade, is an anchor and propeller of global growth, and a source of impetus of global economy. We need to implement the GDI, seize the opportunities in the latest round of technological revolution and industrial transformation, foster new drivers of growth through cooperation on the digital economy and green economy, and make Asia a source of impetus for world economic recovery and growth. It is important to deepen regional economic integration and intensify macro-policy coordination. We need to pursue high-quality implementation of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP) and actively advance negotiations on the new round of China-ASEAN FTA upgrade. We need to develop a regional structure on the division of labor that draws on comparative strengths and advances win-win cooperation, and work to foster a big regional market of greater openness. We need to build an open world economy, promote high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, further liberalize and facilitate global trade and investment, oppose trade protectionism, decoupling, or cutting supply chains, keep global industrial supply chains stable and smooth, and inject strong dynamism into the global economy. Third, working together to expand effective ways for enhanced solidarity and cooperation to bring greater certainty to the shifting global governance. Today's world is a global village where we all live in, and where the futures and destinies of all countries are closely intertwined. The many global issues confronting humanity need to be addressed through consultation by all. Last year, we're pleased to see that Asian countries successfully hosted the BRICS Summit, the leaders' meetings on East Asian cooperation, the G20 Summit, and the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, playing an important role in improving global governance. We need to keep to the approach of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits in global governance. Take an active part in reforming and building the global governance system, and firmly uphold the UN-centered international system and the international order based on international law. We need to deepen cooperation on food, energy, environmental protection, disaster prevention and relief, climate response, and poverty reduction. Jointly make a strong call for peace and development, and send a positive signal of upholding multilateralism to make the global governance system more just and equitable.
Fourth, working together to pursue deeper and more substantive people-to-people exchanges to bring greater certainty to interactions among civilizations. Not long ago, President Xi Jinping proposed the Global Civilization Initiative, providing an important direction for advancing inter-civilizational exchanges and mutual learning, and promoting the progress of human civilization. Asia is a showcase of cultural diversity, where different civilizations enrich and inspire one another. Meanwhile, Asian countries are at different development stages, with developing countries accounting for the majority, including China. Each country has its unique history, culture, and national condition. We wish to work with all parties to implement the GCI and open up new prospects in people-to-people exchanges and cultural interactions that bring our peoples closer. We need to uphold mutual respect and trust, embrace openness and inclusiveness, respect the development paths countries choose on their own, and reject the notion of clash of civilizations and ideological confrontation. We need to champion the common values of humanity and increase exchanges in culture, education, health, and among our young people and the media. We need to increase mutual understanding and trust through sincere communication and properly handle disagreements and problems in the spirit of seeking common ground while setting aside differences in order to create a model of sound interactions among different civilizations. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, as the world's largest developing country, China's development itself has global impacts. While focusing on running our own affairs well, we in China have followed the trend of our times, namely peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit. We have been a builder of world peace, a contributor to global development, and a defender of international order. China has created the twin miracles of rapid economic growth and enduring social stability, which in itself is a contribution to the world. In this uncertain world, the certainty that China offers is an anchor for global peace and development. This has been the case in the past and will remain so in the future. Looking ahead over the longer run, there is certainty in the goals and prospects of China's development. You have all been following closely the 20th CPC National Congress held last October. The Congress drew up a blueprint for China's future development. We made it clear that by the middle of this century, the central task of the CPC is to lead all Chinese people in a concerted effort to realize the second centenary goal of building China into a great modern socialist country in all respects, and to advance national rejuvenation on all fronts through a Chinese path to modernization. The modernization China aims to achieve is one that involves a huge population and features common prosperity for all, material and cultural ethical advancement, harmony between man and nature, and peaceful development. We will not pursue such modernization through war, colonization, or plunder, but peace and development to bring our entire 1.4 billion plus people into a modern society. This will create powerful impetus for economic growth in Asia and beyond. Accomplishing this central task requires long and persistent efforts. Throughout this process, no matter how the world situation may evolve, we will stay committed to reform, opening up, and innovation-driven development. We will continue to inject new vigor and vitality into the global economic development and welcome countries around the world to share in the opportunities and benefits that come with China's development. I believe that a China that is stable and dedicated to development, a China that is down to earth and pressing ahead with fortitude, and a China that is confident, open, and sharing will surely be a strong force for global prosperity and stability. Looking at the near term, both the dynamism and momentum of China's growth are strong. In the first 2 months of this year, the Chinese economy showed an encouraging momentum of rebound The situation in March is even better than that in January and February. Major indicators including consumption and investment picked up, employment and prices were broadly stable, market expectations improved notably. The manufacturing PMI has remained above the 50-point mark. Several international organizations, including the managing director, Madame Gorgieva, when we were having a conversation yesterday, many international organizations have revised up their forecast for China's growth this year. Even more telling than the statistics is the actual situation on the ground. Let's take Hainan, the seat of the Boao Forum, for example. I've been talking with officials responsible for Hainan province these 2 days. In the past, tourism usually boomed during the week of the Spring Festival. Now we're seeing the Golden Tourism Week extending to Golden Month and even Golden Season. Recently, the island has been seeing a steady inflow of tourists and a sustained boom in offshore duty-free sales. This is a good indicator of the resilience, potential, and vibrancy of the Chinese economy. It is also proof that the fundamentals underpinning China's long-term growth are robust and China's economic and social policies are sound and effective. Going forward, we will continue to prioritize stability, seek progress while maintaining stability, consolidate and build on the momentum of recovery, and work for sustained and overall improvement in the economic performance. We will combine the strategy of expanding domestic demand with deepening supply-side structural reform in an effort to make China's market even bigger. We will roll out new measures to increase market access, improve the business climate, and ensure the delivery of projects. To create a better institutional environment that enables SOEs to take new initiative, private companies to break new ground, and foreign firms to make new investment. We will effectively prevent and diffuse major risks, safeguard the overall stability of China's financial sector in particular, and firmly guard against systemic risks. We do have the confidence and ability to sail the giant ship of the Chinese economy steadily ahead against all winds and waves, and make even greater contributions to the global economy. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, there is another big event in Asia this year. That is the 19th Asian Games, to be held in Hangzhou, Zhejiang province of China this autumn. The pandemic may have postponed the Games, but it also made us look even more forward to this rendezvous. The coastlines here in Hainan and the West Lake in Hangzhou are just two of the many beautiful places across China. We welcome you to visit more places. Where there are scenic areas, there is new economy, and by extension, business opportunities for win-win cooperation. I am confident that as we join hands to meet challenges through cooperation and promote development with an open and inclusive mind, we will bring greater certainty to Asia and the world, and usher in an even brighter future for the entire humanity.
To
conclude, I wish this year's Boao Forum for Asia a full success. Thank you. I thank Premier Li Qiang for his keynote speech. Now, I'm honored to invite His Excellency Li Qiang, Prime Minister of Singapore.
Your Excellency, Premier Li Qiang, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, 大家早上好. Asia is a vibrant region with enormous promise. It's home to more than half the world's population, and Asians are increasingly better educated, brimming with energy, ideas, and dynamism. China is one of the biggest economies in the world. Its consumer market is huge and expanding. Its technology is advancing rapidly, and its workforce is increasingly skilled. India, too, is developing steadily with a youthful demographic advantage. And Southeast Asia has a growing middle class and is projected collectively to become the fourth largest economy in the world by the end of the decade. However, realizing Asia's promise depends on the region remaining stable, inclusive, and open. Like every other region, Asia is affected by the troubled global environment and strategic tensions. The COVID pandemic severely disrupted our societies, our economies, our supply chains. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has gravely violated the UN Charter and international law and profoundly undermined the rules-based international order. Most worrying is the state of relations between the US and China. Big powers have a heavy responsibility to maintain stable and workable relations with one another, because any clash between them will have grievous consequences for themselves and the world. And yet, the US and China are at odds over many intractable issues, including trade and investments, supply chains, cybersecurity, emerging and critical technologies, as well as freedom of navigation. We hope that China and the United States will succeed in stabilizing their relationship and establish sufficient mutual trust and respect to cooperate in areas where their interests are aligned. The world feels the impact of these tensions keenly. Progress on tackling urgent problems such as climate change, energy and food security, and pandemic preparedness has been severely impeded. Economic imperatives are being overshadowed by national security concerns. Countries are pursuing self-reliance and resilience by onshoring or friendshoring their supply chains. The bifurcation in technological and economic systems is deepening. And this will impose a huge economic cost on countries, as well as further exacerbate rivalries and frictions. Against this global backdrop, what can Asian countries do? First, we should continue to promote economic cooperation and good relations between China and countries in the region. China has become the largest trading partner for almost every country in Asia. It has launched also regional and global initiatives such as the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the AIIB, the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, and the Global Development Initiative, the GDI. Other Asian countries reciprocate China's desire to deepen economic integration. Post-COVID, we encourage a revival of investment, trade, and tourism flows, and we look forward to participating in new growth opportunities in China's dynamic economy. Singapore's own ties with China are doing well. We are updating and improving the China-Singapore Free Trade Agreement and raising overall relations to a higher level. Our government-to-government cooperation projects have matched China's priorities at different stages of its development. The latest project, the Chongqing Connectivity Initiative, improves connectivity between Western China and Southeast Asia, and it is part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Even during the pandemic, Singapore kept up our ties with China. Our merchandise trade expanded by 6% last year. Singapore is one of the largest foreign sources of investments in China. At the same time, more and more Chinese companies are investing in Singapore, setting up headquarters and operations here. The economic cooperation between China and its Asian neighbors will be more robust if it is underpinned by a sound, broader relationship which builds mutual trust and fosters regional stability. There are many bilateral and regional issues that need to be resolved, and they should be managed in the spirit of goodwill and cooperation, peacefully and in accordance with international law, giving full weight to the perspectives and interests of countries big and small. From time to time, national interests will diverge and bilateral issues will arise. This is unavoidable. And when this happens, it is important that we insulate our economic relations from these difficulties and continue to do business with one another. We must strive to work together pragmatically for the benefit of our peoples, even when we may not see eye to eye on some issues. This will enable all Asian countries to coexist peacefully with one another and enjoy the space and security to chart their own paths towards development and prosperity. Secondly, besides strengthening their ties with China, countries in Asia also need to deepen cooperation with one another. We should build a dense mesh of cooperation and interdependence rather than a hub and spokes model, because this will result in a stronger and more resilient region. ASEAN is a key organization that promotes cooperation in Southeast Asia. ASEAN member states are working systematically to strengthen integration among ourselves. The ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement will deepen our cooperation in a sector which will only become more crucial and pervasive. And the ASEAN Community Vision for 2025 provides a roadmap towards a rules-based, people-oriented, and people-centered ASEAN community. ASEAN centrality also helps to link up partners across Asia and beyond. Mechanisms like the East Asia Summit, the ASEAN +3, and the ASEAN Regional Forum have brought major players together and offered neutral platforms for productive dialogue and engagement. ASEAN also initiated the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which is the world's largest FTA, covering Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, and Australasia. Many other complementary regional groupings exist in Asia. These include the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, the CPTPP, the Indo-Pacific Economic Forum, the IPEF, and the Digital Economy Partnership Agreement, or DEPA. These groupings are not mutually exclusive. They have varying memberships and often overlap with one another. Not every country needs to be in every group, but collectively, the different groupings build a resilient and interlocking network of cooperation among countries in Asia. At the same time, these regional groupings deepen ties between Asia and the rest of the world, and this gives our external partners stakes in Asia's peace and prosperity. Which brings me to my third point, that Asia should always remain an open region. As Asian countries develop cooperation among ourselves, we should also cultivate our relations with the US, Europe, and other parts of the world. For example, despite the tensions between China and the United States, their bilateral trade in goods hit a record high of close to $700 million last year. $700 billion last year. Other Asian countries, too, are keen to expand economic relations with other regions. Investments by European and American companies in Asia continue to grow. Asian countries are concluding FTAs with European countries and with the EU, and even with partners in Latin America. For example, Singapore has a free trade agreement with the Pacific Alliance. Strong economic ties across regions will foster greater interest among more stakeholders to engage constructively in Asia. This will encourage healthy competition, spur innovation and partnerships, moderate tensions when they arise, and make for a more stable and balanced region. Whether Asia can realize its promise will depend on how well countries in Asia maintain stable relations and cooperate practically and productively, both amongst themselves and with our external partners. As a very important economy in Asia, China has a big role to play in all of this. We welcome China's commitment to continue opening up its economy and to continue supporting multilateralism and regional cooperation. And we look forward to all parties contributing more actively to regional and global development and prosperity to benefit Asia and the world. Thank you very much.
I thank Prime Minister Li Qiang for his speech. Now, I'm honored to invite His Excellency Pedro Sanchez.
Prime Minister Qiang, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be here in Hainan to take part in this prestigious annual conference of the Boao Forum, especially in an edition that combines in its title concepts such as solidarity and cooperation to face major global challenges. In just a few days, I have attended the European Council in Brussels, the Ibero-American Summit in Dominican Republic, and now I am here in an official visit to China. In less than a week, I will have met more than 40 leaders from 3 different continents. And let me be clear, in every meeting, I have heard the same yearning for peace, stability, and prosperity. Nobody wants economic fragmentation or war. Humanity faces global challenges of an unprecedented scale: a climate emergency, a pandemic, and the brutal and illegal aggression of Russia against Ukraine that is causing a major humanitarian crisis, food insecurity, inflation, and increasing debt distress in a growing number of vulnerable countries. In this context, the international community needs responsible and constructive players. And that is what Spain wants to be. Firstly, as a reliable and open country, but also as the upcoming presidency of the European Union, part of the Ibero-American community, and an active member of all big multilateral organizations and fora. It is essential to rebuild trust through dialogue, solidarity and cooperation. In this vein, I welcome the intensification of diplomatic contacts of the Chinese authorities with leaders around the world. It reflects a high degree of responsibility, and we want to contribute to these efforts. Our views may differ in some areas, but we must continue to build bridges and increase mutual trust. Ladies and gentlemen, I firmly believe in a rules-based international order. Free, balanced, and fair trade is essential if we want stability and prosperity for all. A fragmented world dominated by protectionist tendencies represents a return to the past, with all its shadows and uncertainties. Some claim that the deglobalization process is underway. I do not think so. What is happening is a change in the way globalization is conceived and articulated. Production costs are no longer the only criteria to decide where to locate production facilities. Safety, environmental footprint, and above all, reliability have now gained relevance. And that is a positive sign. In fact, it will contribute to a more resilient, efficient, and sustainable supply chain. China's modernization and Asia's growth have been beneficial for the whole world. Asia and Europe have prospered hand in hand for decades, and they can continue to do so now. Together, China and Europe account for a quarter of the world's population and around the half of the world's GDP. We share many common interests and challenges. Our economies are deeply intertwined. But Europe is now adapting to new realities in a rapidly changing context. This implies accelerating its Green Deal to lead in the fight against climate change, moving away from Russia's gas and oil dependencies, and building a new green and digital industrial base. China and the European Union, as major markets and geopolitical entities, must compete in some areas and cooperate in others. And let me be frank, we will continue to defend the European values, principles, and views with an independent perspective and with a keen awareness of our goals, interests, and priorities. We won't give up on them. Our companies and often competitors, but also partners in the development of transport, energy, and healthcare infrastructure projects, not only for Eurasia, but also for the world. Thus, recent investments by large Chinese construction groups in Spanish engineering companies are creating opportunities for the development of joint projects in Latin America. We must continue to deepen with this mutually beneficial collaboration, but we have to do it in a way that we respect the sovereignty of each country and we respect the rules. This means leveling the playing field and ensuring full reciprocity between partners. It means providing a stable regulatory framework that allows domestic and foreign companies to compete on an unequal footing. It means opening the East so the West doesn't have to close in itself. I firmly believe that relations between Europe and China, and by extension between Spain and China, do not need to be confrontational. There's ample room for win-win cooperation. We must remain partners, economically and beyond. There are three key areas where the scope for collaboration is immense. First, strengthening multilateralism. We all believe in a strong, transparent, and rules-based multilateral system as a framework for discussing global challenges. No global problem can be solved unilaterally. Second, the need to accelerate the fight against climate change. As signatories to the Paris Agreement, we can do more to work together on the energy transition to keep the Paris temperature goal within reach. And third, achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and reforming the international financial architecture. The G20 and the SDG summits in September will provide an opportunity to show our common determination to increase financing for development and find solutions to the growing debt sustainability risk that face many low-income and emerging economies. And finally, let me stress how much we value the relationship with our Asian partners and with China in particular. This year, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations between China and Spain. Much has changed since. Bilateral trade between our nations has significantly expanded, and it almost doubled between 2017 and 2022, growing from 32 billion euros to 57.7 billion euros last year. China is already Spain's first supplier and the largest market in Asia for Spanish companies. Meanwhile, the number of Chinese citizens visiting and companies working in Spain is also growing significantly. This is happening because today Spain is one of the best places in Europe to invest and do business. We offer an ideal geopolitical position, sitting at the intersection between three continents, a world-class digital and physical infrastructure, a vibrant and robust private sector, a highly educated workforce, affordable clean energy, and the institutional stability and legal certainty that investments need to thrive. Not for nothing, Spain continues to grow above the Eurozone average. It has one of the lowest inflation rates of the European Union, and it has reached all-time high levels of foreign direct investment, with flows just shy of 35 billion euros, much of it going to industrial projects and renewable energies. Foreign capital funded 860 greenfield projects last year, placing Spain in sixth place worldwide, above China, Japan, or France. Global investors are betting on Spain, and so is the European Union, which has granted us already over 70 billion euros from the European Union Next Generation funds to modernize our production system and foster 10 strategic projects in areas such as electric vehicles, renewables, green hydrogen, storage, aerospace, agro-industry, advanced health, and microelectronics. In short, today, more than ever, the global economy needs reliable partners that can be trusted, and Spain is and will be one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, Europe and Asia must join forces to tackle global challenges and promote economic development worldwide. We have to take every opportunity to promote dialogue and cooperation for our own sake and for the well-being of our future generations. China and Asia are known for their can-do spirit, and there is so much we can do together. It is in our hands that our words become deeds. Thank you very much.
I thank Prime Minister Sanchez for his speech. Now I'm honored to invite His Excellency Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Premier Li Qiang, Prime Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, 各位来宾，大家好。I would like to thank Mr. Li Baodong and the Chinese government for inviting me to attend and address this august gathering. my heartiest congratulations also to His Excellency Premier Li Qiang on his appointment as Premier of the State Council. I'm happy to know that my participation this year coincides with the 10th anniversary of the elevation of Malaysia-China Comprehensive Strategic Partnership since 2013. The theme, An Uncertain World, Solidarity and Cooperation for Development Amid Challenges, is most apt and relevant given the extraordinary ebb and flow of the state of geopolitics and power as well as geoeconomics which we now live in. While not forgetting the bitter lessons of COVID-19 pandemic, and thank you again to China and the Chinese people for their help and assistance, not only to Malaysia but to the region. 谢谢. Nevertheless, the lessons of history remind us that living in an age of uncertainty is but a mere manifestation of the cyclical nature of socio-political as well as economic evolution. The collapse of the Berlin Wall and the ensuing rapprochement signaled the end of the Cold War, but it led to grandiloquent proclamations about the end of history, namely assertions by the West about the triumph of liberal democracy and capitalism being the be-all and end-all for progress. In the meantime, China and India undertook an unprecedented socio-economic reform which resulted in phenomenal growth, empowering them to reclaim their rightful place on the global stage. ASEAN, too, as Premier Hsien Loong mentioned, has grown, and now we have seen the new Africa. What we have seen in the last 3 decades and continue to witness today is that there are other equally legitimate ways of viewing the world and different paths of interpreting and achieving socio-economic progress. China's socialism with Chinese characteristics, Chinese path to modernization, and President Xi Jinping's idea of a community of shared future for mankind are notable examples of this. Economic empowerment and civilizational dialogues. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the unity government which I lead has introduced the Malaysia Madani concept as an expression of desire to forge our own path based on our own mode as we create a humanistic nation in line with our civilizational values. In this sense, it is also our national philosophy, centered on 6 core values: sustainability, prosperity, innovation, respect, trust, and compassion. These core values are not new, yet they are the most germane for Malaysia given our history, particularly the past few years. Following this philosophy, allow me to share some thoughts on how we can achieve solidarity and cooperation for development amid challenges. First, we should focus on values that unite us as a human family, not those which divide us. Ethics, sincerity, and integrity in dealing with partners in bilateral and multilateral situations must be paramount. The concept of democratic accountability should prevail rather than just trumpeting the slogans or term democracy, which has been used as a means of pigeonholing countries according to rather arbitrary standards. To my mind, democratic accountability enjoins on leaders to be accountable to the people across the board, providing improved standards of living, transparency in the decision-making process, and essentially the overarching practice of good and effective governance. Secondly, while competition is good, there are lines when cooperation is even better. Today, geopolitical and geoeconomic competition has become an escapable feature of Asia, while geoeconomic competition in the past was focused on commodities and resources. The current race is about cutting-edge technology, as demonstrated, for example, in the competition on the semiconductor industry. The rivalry to be ahead in this can take either a productive or destructive turn. On the one hand, we need to recognize that countries will always seek to protect their intellectual property rights and try to stay ahead on the competition. On the other hand, we need to establish certain guardrails so that the competition does not lead to bifurcation in the technological world, one that will raise costs and impede progress. That's why I believe that technological competition should be one of the principal agenda items for discussion at the highest levels, right up there with discourses on security and general economic matters. Having said that, let me reiterate, the unfettered competition must give way to spirited collaboration. We could go even further as we relate this principle of empathy to the Analects of Confucius, and what comes to mind are the overarching themes of being humane, conscientious, and kind. The Prophet of Islam said, "The believers in their mutual kindness, compassion, and sympathy are just like one body." Thirdly, as we talk of uncertainties in relation among nations, geopolitical conflicts, and economic rivalry, let us not forget that the ordinary citizen with the burden of having to put food on the table and the tangible and pressing uncertainties faced. For the majority of the world's population, wages remain the main form of income. However, according to the ILO's Global Wage Report 2022-2023, wages and the purchasing power of households have dented considerably due to COVID-19 and global inflation. In the absence of adequate policy responses, the immediate future would witness a sharp fall in real incomes, a rise in inequality, which could fuel further social unrest. In the light of this, we should work closely together in the spirit of cooperation and solidarity, striving towards reducing inequality, promoting social justice, and enhancing standards of living for all. I commend you, Premier Li Qiang, and China for taking this bold initiative of continuing interaction and dialogues with countries. Translating lofty ideas into practical reality, solidarity and cooperation is best exemplified in the realization of the Belt and Road Initiative. With the pandemic behind us, we should try to gain or regain its momentum. In closing, I cannot overstress that if we continue to cooperate, speak in a unified voice, and exchange ideas on strategy and best policy practices, we can work together in an Asia that is stronger and more resilient. 谢谢。
I thank Prime Minister Anwar. Now, we are seeing an increasing number of African leaders and business leaders participating in Boao Forum for Asia. This year, we are extremely honored to have invited His Excellency Patrick Ashi, Prime Minister of Cote d'Ivoire, to be here at the opening ceremony and address the audience. Now, the floor is yours, Mr. Prime Minister.
Son Excellence,
Monsieur Li Qiang, Premier ministre de la République populaire,
Your Excellency
Messieurs
Li
les
Qiang,
Premiers ministres,
Premier of the
Madame le
People's
Directeur
Republic
général
of China,
du Fonds monétaire international,
distinguished heads of
Son
government,
Excellence Ban Ki-moon, Président
Managing
du Conseil
Director of
d'administration
IMF,
du Forum de
distinguished
Boao
Chairman
Forum,
Ban Ki-moon,
Mesdames et
members
Messieurs
of the
les
Board of
responsables
Directors,
du gouvernement populaire de la province de Hainan,
senior officials
Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs
from
les chefs de
Hainan
délégation,
province,
Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres,
heads of
Mesdames et
delegation,
Messieurs,
ministers, ladies and
c'est un
gentlemen,
véritable honneur pour moi de m'exprimer à l'occasion de cette si belle cérémonie
it's a great honor
d'ouverture de la conférence
to
annuelle
speak
du Forum
on the
Boao
occasion of the opening ceremony
l'Asie.
of this forum,
En ces instants solennels,
and I'm delighted
Je
to be
voudrais
here
transmettre
for the forum.
au nom de son Excellence, Monsieur le
At
Président
this
Alassane Ouattara,
solemn moment,
Président
I
de
would
la
like to
République de Côte
convey,
d'Ivoire,
on behalf
nos plus chaleureuses
of
salutations et
President
félicitations
Ouattara,
à son Excellence,
our
Monsieur
warmest
Xi
greetings and
Jinping, pour sa
congratulations
brillante réélection
to
en
President
qualité de Président
Xi
de la
Jinping
République populaire de
for
Chine.
his re-election
Je
as
veux
President
également
of the
adresser
People's Republic
mes
of
plus
China.
sincères félicitations à son Excellence,
I also
Monsieur Li
wish to
Qiang,
extend
pour sa nomination
my
en
most
qualité
sincere
de Premier
congratulations
ministre de ce grand
to
pays frère
His
et ami
Excellency
de la
Mr.
Côte
Li
d'Ivoire.
Qiang on his appointment
Excellence,
as
Monsieur le Premier
Premier
ministre,
of
l'année
this
2023
brotherly
marque
country
le
and friend of
40e
Cote d'Ivoire.
anniversaire de l'établissement des relations diplomatiques entre
Mr.
la
Premier,
République populaire de
this
Chine
year marks the
et la
40th
République de Côte
anniversary
d'Ivoire.
of the establishment
À cet
of
effet,
diplomatic ties
Je veux
between
ici
our two
vous
countries.
traduire les sentiments de très haute estime que le
I
gouvernement
wish
et
to
le peuple
express to
ivoirien
you
portent au gouvernement et au
the
peuple
very
chinois,
high esteem that
avec lesquels
the government
sont
of people
partagées
of our
les
country
mêmes ambitions
for
de
the government and
souveraineté,
people
de
of China.
prospérité, de bonheur,
We
de
share
paix et de
the same
fraternité.
aspiration
Nul
for
doute
sovereignty,
que le meilleur
prosperity,
reste à venir
happiness,
dans le cadre de cette relation
and
si
peace.
fructueuse.
There's no
Mesdames
doubt
et messieurs,
that our
le
bilateral
grand maître
cooperation
écrivain
will
chinois
produce
Lao
fruitful
Tse
results
nous enseigne,
and
et
embrace
je
a
cite,
brighter prospect.
mieux vaut allumer
Ladies and
une
gentlemen,
bougie que de
A
maudire les
famous
ténèbres.
Chinese writer said
Et je crois, mesdames
that
et
it is
messieurs,
better to light
que
a
le
candle
forum de Boao,
than to curse the
à
darkness.
travers le thème
Ladies and
retenu pour
gentlemen,
cette conférence,
The theme
fait le choix
of this
courageux
Boao Forum
d'allumer une bougie sur
is making the
l'inéluctabilité
courageous
des
choice
immenses
to
défis
light the candle
actuels et futurs à relever
to
par nos pays,
address
plus
the immense
interpénétrés
challenges
et interdépendants que jamais dans
We
un
are
monde
closely
de plus en plus incertain
dependent on
et
each other,
instable.
and we make this
Face aux
choice
challenges
together,
économiques, géopolitiques,
faced with
énergétiques, démographiques,
growing
climatique ou
economic,
sanitaire qui
geopolitical, energy,
la seule logique
demographic,
qui doit demeurer
climate,
entre les nations,
and health
c'est en
challenges.
effet celle de
All
l'entraide
countries
et de la coopération sincère
help
et opiniâtre.
each other,
Celle qui
stand
ne
in
vise qu'une seule
solidarity,
chose,
and cooperate
créer
with
cette
each other.
langue commune entre les mondes, sans laquelle,
The goal
comme l'enseigne
we
l'immense
must be committed to
Confucius,
is
les
to
affaires
create
ne peuvent
a
être
common
toutes.
language between
Oui,
all of us.
ce forum
This is
pour
a
le
prerequisite
renforcement de nos
for
coopérations
us to reach
économiques
common
est donc
understandings
plus essentiel
on a
aujourd'hui
number of
que
issues.
jamais,
This is also an
Pour
important
l'Asie,
component
mais
in
aussi
Chinese
pour
culture.
l'Afrique. Ce continent de l'aube
This
de
forum,
l'humanité,
therefore,
ce monde qui a
is
soif de
more essential
prospérité
than ever.
et de modernité, et dont les défis
Asia and
présents
Africa
sont prodigieux.
are
Je veux d'ailleurs
origins
saisir cette
of
opportunité
humanity.
pour les
We face
aborder avec franchise,
challenges at present.
car je crois que leur
I would
résolution,
like to address
par le
them
biais de la
frankly
coopération et
today.
de la solidarité entre les nations,
I think
dépend non
for
seulement de
countries to
l'avenir des
stand in
Africains,
solidarity
mais plus
and address
largement encore
challenges together
celui de l'humanité tout
will
entière.
be beneficial and essential
premier
for not
défi,
just Africa,
C'est
but
celui
also
de
the
la
wider
jeunesse
world.
et du développement du secteur privé.
The
pour
first
l'instant.
challenge
La Côte
is
d'Ivoire,
to develop
sous le leadership
private
de son
businesses
Excellence, Monsieur le
in
Président de
order
la
to
République,
integrate
Alassane Ouattara,
youth into
a
the
réalisé les
society.
performances économiques parmi les
Under the
meilleures
leadership
au monde,
of our
avec
President,
une
we
croissance
have
moyenne de
achieved
7% de
rapid
2012 à
socio-economic
2022.
growth.
Elle a réduit la
In the
pauvreté
past
depuis le
10
15
years, our average growth
Son
rate
ambition incarnée
is
dans sa vision
7%
2030
poverty rate reduced by 15 percentage points. In Cote d'Ivoire's vision, we aim to double our GDP in 10 years, reduce poverty rate by half, and increase our people's life expectancy by 10 years. Our President has identified this year as the year of youth, as he places high importance on the development of this generation. Today, 1 in 6 of our planet's population is African. By 2050, it will be 1 in 4 for 10 billion people. More than half of Africa's population will be under 25 years old. How can we help them to knock on the doors of the job market? China's momentous development of the past 50 years is inspiring for all of us. The Chinese people have turned their human capital into an asset to create tremendous wealth at an unprecedented rate. To draw on China's successful experience, we also need to attract private businesses, to encourage them to attract more youth employment. Going forward, we will focus on creating added value, incentivize private investment. These are the keys to Asia's successful growth. It will be inspirational for Africa. Let me also take this opportunity to appeal to all Asian companies to increase productive private investment in Africa to achieve mutually beneficial results. The second challenge is to mobilize greater financial resources for our better future. Constrained by greater than expected external shocks, public finances have been dealt a blow. In the meantime, domestic social and security needs are increasing. Africa is caught between maintaining growth as a source of stability and peace and keeping a sound macroeconomic framework. In the context of inflationary crisis, we are seeing high interest rates. It is vital that international solidarity is manifested at all levels, both bilaterally and multilaterally, to allow our countries to access more accommodative financing conditions. Africa's needs in terms of economic and social infrastructure, particularly in education, health, energy, roads, and networks, are increasingly important and taken on strategic importance. The third challenge is, of course, the climate change. Africa emits only 4% of greenhouse gases. Africa has no responsibility for the development of fossil fuels. The continent is home to the Earth's second largest lung, named as Congo Forest. However, African continent is unfortunately suffering the most from the consequences of climate change. The priority now is to change and adapt our lifestyles, address droughts, rising sea levels, and storms, and guarantee food security for our population. It is high time for all of us to act powerfully and collectively. We expect the promised funding will be in the pipeline for countries to take responsibility and demonstrate equity in the protection and use of the planet's resources. China has put forth ecological civilization, the idea of Great Green Wall, and has been investing annually $100 billion in renewable energy. We can draw on this experience. Ladies and gentlemen, in face of these common challenges, Africa sees Asia as a strategic partner from which it has much to learn. In face of these important challenges, we are looking at China, India, and Japan, Singapore, and Malaysia, to name a few, and see how their enterprises made achievements over the past 5 decades. We are confident that with active input, everything is possible. As a final note, in face of these crucial challenges, it is time for Africa to have its rightful place in the global governance system, both in the UN and at G20. Without Africa, there will be no lasting solution to the challenges facing the Earth. Africa is a huge reservoir of natural resources, human talent, and solutions. Africa, since its birth, has demonstrated solidarity. Under the current leadership, Cote d'Ivoire is more united than ever. Unity is also essential to Africa. It is in this spirit that our country joined the Belt and Road Initiative in 2018. This initiative promotes cooperation, free trade, and brotherly ties between Asia, Europe, and Africa. Your Excellency, Mr. Premier, ladies and gentlemen, the representatives at this forum are the brightest in the world, including from China, the most dynamic economy in the last 50 years. It is in this context that I reiterate my call to the Asian private sector to come and invest more in Africa. On our continent, there is an old proverb that says, "Unity in the herd makes the lion sleep in hunger." It summarizes the cardinal values of concord solidarity and collective progress, which are necessary in the fight against the lion's hunger, poverty, and underdevelopment. This is the page we must write today, together. We need to strengthen the bonds of friendship and cooperation between Asia and Africa for our mutual benefit, for our planet and the entire humanity. Long live the friendship of our peoples, long live the friendship of Asia and Africa. May the values of dialogue, peace, and solidarity live for a long time. Thank you. I thank Prime Minister Xi for your remarks. Now I'm honored to invite Madame Kristalina Georgieva, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund.
Your Excellency Premier Li Qiang, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Chao Shan Hao, good morning. It is very fitting to be here today. The Boao Forum for Asia is hosted by the home of Mulantau Lighthouse, the tallest in China, a beacon of light guiding ships to safe harbor. And as we ought to guide our world economy to a safer future. It has been in choppy waters for quite some time, experiencing shock upon shock upon shock. We expect 2023 to be another difficult year, with global growth falling below 3%, as the effects of the war in Ukraine and monetary tightening continue to take hold. A rapid transition from a prolonged period of low interest rates to much higher rates necessary to fight inflation has inevitably caused turbulence in the banking sector in some advanced economies and made policy choices even harder. Asia is a source of dynamism. We project this year China and India to contribute 50% of global growth. But Asia also feels uncertainty in the world we are living today. So how can policymakers navigate these times of uncertainty? This year's Boao Forum gives us an answer: through cooperation and solidarity. The twin beacons of light we can rely on to guide us through the challenges that lie ahead. We know that cooperation has already transformed the global economy by deepening trade integration, which has boosted incomes and living standards across the world. Over the past 40 years, the world economy has tripled in size. Emerging markets and developing economies are the biggest beneficiaries. They have quadrupled. Rich countries have already also benefited. They doubled. And here in China, 800 million people have been lifted out of poverty as the country has become even more integrated in the world economy. This is an incredible achievement. Likewise, in countries across Asia, trade integration has been a key ingredient of strong GDP growth for many decades, including trade within the region, which today accounts for almost 50% of the total, with China being a critical hub. But we must also recognize that the benefits of globalization have not been shared equally across countries or people. And we have learned that supply chains must be made more secure and more resilient. Addressing these concerns, as we heard from Premier Li Qiang, it requires a pragmatic approach, working together where it matters most. For example, to reinvigorate international trade in an equitable way and diversify supply chains based on economic logic. Our research shows that the long-term cost of trade fragmentation could be as high as 7% of global GDP, roughly equivalent to the combined annual output of Germany and Japan. And as a highly integrated region, Asia would be most adversely affected by runaway fragmentation. We must keep these costs down through cooperation. It would be paramount for the prosperity of hundreds of millions of people around the world. Cooperation goes hand in hand with solidarity, with those in greatest need. Over the past 3 years, we have seen low-income and vulnerable countries and people being particularly severely hit. Solidarity starts at home, with governments protecting vulnerable people in their own countries. This means fiscal policy providing targeted support to those most in need, those most affected by food insecurity or the cost of living crisis. And it also means countries in a relatively stronger position helping vulnerable members of our global community. With interest rates high and many currencies depreciating, this is particularly important for countries in debt distress. We urgently need faster and more efficient global mechanisms for providing debt treatment to these countries. After all, such mechanisms would provide significant benefits to both creditors and debtors. And success would remove one important source of uncertainty for the global picture. And in this regard, I want to recognize with gratitude China's engagement in the common framework for that resolution and China's participation in the new Global Sovereign Debt Roundtable. Solidarity must extend to future generations, and nowhere it matters more than in climate action, especially in Asia, with its high population density and exposure to climate shocks. And it is also the place to steer through the green transition much needed opportunities for growth and for jobs. Let me conclude by stating the obvious. Despite all the forces of fragmentation, we know we are stronger together. Together, we can spread a guiding light far and wide. Together, we can navigate the rough waters to reach a safe harbor. Together, we are wealthier and more secure. 谢谢。
谢谢古尔杰娃
I thank Madam Georgieva,
总裁女士
Managing Director of IMF,
下
for your
面我荣
remarks.
幸地邀请沙特阿拉
Now
伯
I'm honored to
基础
invite
工业公司
Mr. Abdul
首
Rahman
席执行官
Al
阿
Faji,
法基先生致
CEO
辞。
of Sabiq.
Your Excellency Li Qiang, the Premier of China, Your Excellency Mr. Ban Ki-moon, Chairman of Boao Forum of Asia, distinguished, honorable states and leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. I'm truly honorable to speak for the business community at this prestigious event in such a momentous time. And I'm glad to be able to do so live in front of all of you. This year, the discussion at the Boao Forum of Asia revolves around the uncertainty afflicting the world. Indeed, things have been changing so fast on the global stage that it will be difficult to re-establish the stability needed for the economic growth. But I see reason for optimism. Over the last several years, structural changes being slowly but surely unfolding between the consumer goods and the energy industry. And these changes might be a sure path towards robust and sustainable economic growth. For the consumer goods industry, these changes has been given an additional leverage to buyers who demand more goods that respect the principles of the sustainability. For the energy industry, these changes pressurize the legacy, carbon-intense, fossil fuel portfolio. In both cases, the dissemination of technology and the sharing of knowledge have become much more important. Now, the chemical industry that I come from accounts only for 7% of the world GDP. But placed as it is between the energy and consumer goods industries, and it offers a way to decarbonize the energy industry portfolio while adding value to its products and solutions. In short, the chemical industry is ideally positioned to drive the sustainable economic growth. But for such sustainable economic growth to flourish globally, close international collaboration will be required, not only between the companies, but between the countries linked by value chain. Being the world's largest market for chemical products, China is the obvious place to establish nexus of global sustainable economic growth. And that's why the country has secured the full active participation of SABIC, one of the world's largest chemical company. While its vision to be the preferred world leader in chemical, SABIC has dug roots deep in China soil. For decades, it has been a favored investor, operator, inventor, and supplier in China. It became a trusted partner in China when it becomes the quality, quantity, and reliability of its delivery. In addition, offering innovative material and sustainable solutions to China customers, SABIC has the two world ethylene crackers in joint ventures, one established with Sinovic in Tianjin, and the other one is planned to be established in Fujian with Fujian Energy Petrochemical Group. SABIC will keep looking to other potential mega projects, investment opportunities in China. These can be enhanced by streamlined and speedy approval process, and SABIC expand its local presence, and it will focus on investing in the development of the technology. Innovation-driven economic growth can speed widely under the strategic alignment between Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 and China Belt and Road Initiative. In sum, SABIC remains firmly committed for fostering mutually beneficial economic growth in and through China. And China aims to rise GDP growth rates around 5% this year. The country is clearly more determined than ever to open up and foster high-quality development in the spirit of the sustainability. As the first featured speaker representative in the international business community, it takes as my responsibility to speak on this behalf. And I believe that the consensus view of my peers is that the best way to create sustainable high-quality development is to embrace free trades with barriers-free export to China and to market-based incentivized business environment for enterprises under all forms of ownership. And with this, I will conclude my speech, and thank you very much. 谢谢。
Thank you, Mr. Al-Faji, for your remarks. Now I'm honored to invite Mr. Andrew Forrest, Executive Chairman of FMG.
Ni hao, ni hao. It is a great day to be together here with all of Asia and China. Premier, leaders, fellow Boao Forum councillors, distinguished guests all. After the long dark winter of COVID, I've just returned from touring industrial China, including Hainan, Shanxi, Jiangsu, and Beijing. I congratulate you, President Xi and Premier Li, on your appointment and on your leadership. The perseverance and growth that I have seen in the Chinese people is as a direct result of your leadership, Premier Li and President Xi, and I thank you. During the world's isolation, and I noted during this dark winter, Chinese industry did not slow down. It raced even further ahead in technology, automation, robotics, and manufacturing. In the entire supply chain ecosystem the world needs most. Renewable energy, wind, solar, electric mobility, batteries. And there is no other country doing this at such scale. Yet, sadly, not as a businessman or a philanthropist, but as a scientist with fellow scientists around the world, I can report to you that during this dark winter, global warming has accelerated too. 1.5 degrees Celsius warming is tragically most likely to happen this decade. And you know the science was right, but the timing was wrong. It may even happen if El Nino really hits next year. And the cause is simple. To my friends in the fossil fuel industry, you have the greatest challenge, and we are with you. The cause is simple. We are not eradicating fossil fuels fast enough. It is no longer a prediction. We are living in the era of fossil fuel-driven global warming right now. It has no boundaries. It will hurt us all, particularly our beautiful children. And as a child, I was led to believe that out of every setback was the seed to equal or greater opportunity. We must now take this opportunity for them. I present to you all, to our prescient leaders, this massive opportunity is now. Switching to renewable energy will lead to unprecedented economic growth, full employment, and a material improvement in the standard of living of all citizens. China, more than any other country, can lead this decisive action. Premier Li, you lead the world's supply chain, the world's premier supply chain. Your country can rapidly deliver to the global community the decarbonisation we need in months and years, not in years and decades, by supplying the equipment mankind needs with joint ventures all over the world. You have the leadership, the capital, the massive technical and industrial base to make this happen. I truly believe, Premier Li, that China's next 5-year plan will not only be the most important plan in the history of the PRC, but with the right settings, the most important 5-year plan we've seen for the world. I encourage China, like all advanced nations represented here and beyond, that we must ensure the world has the equipment supply it needs to fight global warming. We must pull together to make this happen. Forget economic blocs, intergovernmental squabbles. They will be seen as short-sighted and visionless by our children if we do not act now. We must focus on our agreements and similarities and set aside our differences for the future of all our children. China, we rely on your success, your leadership, and your incredible ability to plan and deliver. As a simple citizen of our shared future, I encourage China to accelerate even further its renewables rollout, already successful, from 120 gigawatts last year to 500 gigawatts per year, to essentially eliminate national emissions in the 2030s. All your baseload energy can be met with renewable electricity and with green hydrogen, quickly replacing the gas you currently need to meet your peak power requirements. All your baseload energy can be met such. I am asking the only country, China, the most organised economy in the world, to achieve this great act of acceleration. At the same time, lifting even higher the standard of living of Chinese people and all people of the world. This is the 20th year of Fortescue's and China's partnership. I am so proud that our iron ore has helped build this great nation. My promise to you now is that our iron ore will soon be green as we fully decarbonise our mining sites by 2030, bringing green steel one step closer. Trust mostly what a man says, but trust what he does. It is my life's aim, Premier Li, and all leaders here in this great hall, that in 2049, we not only celebrate the first century of the PRC, but also that all children are growing up not in an unlivable, polluted planet, but in a green, harmonious world, one that only infinite, renewable energy that yours, President Xi and Premier Li, in this critical decade that that leadership can give them. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I thank Mr. Andrew Forrest for his remarks. With a warm round of applause, let us express our sincere gratitude to all leaders of countries and international organizations and the business community. Let us all stand up and see off our leaders.